Discover the captivating life of Christa Päffgen, better known to the world as Nico, a woman whose path through fame, love, and addiction is woven with the bittersweet threads of beauty and tragedy. Her story, marked by haunting music and profound struggle, continues to resonate as a powerful testament to a life lived on the edge of brilliance and despair. Ibiza, July 1988. Beneath the warm, golden Mediterranean sun, the island lay draped in the languid pulse of summer. Silent and empty, the winding asphalt roads meandered through the hillsides. On one such road, a woman close to 50 years old pushed her bicycle forward. Her hair, dyed a shade of orange, framed a face marked with the lines of a life weathered by storms. She was on her way to purchase a small amount of cannabis, a lingering habit after having successfully broken free from far more destructive drugs that had haunted her for 2 decades. This woman was a legend, a frozen goddess of the 1960s. Yet fate needed no grand stage. In the stillness of the afternoon, a simple fall, a sudden strike of her head against the hot pavement, would bring everything to a sudden end. This was more than a mere bicycle accident. It was the final gentle note in a tragic opera that had lasted nearly half a century. The life of Christa Päffgen, forever known to the world by a single resonant name, Nico. Born in 1938 in Cologne, Germany, Christa Päffgen's early years were overshadowed by the devastating impact of World War II. Her childhood unfolded amid the relentless wail of air raid sirens, forced evacuations, hunger, and profound loss. Her father, a soldier in the Wehrmacht, was killed in the war, leaving an unfillable void in young Christa's life. Growing up in the torn and divided city of Berlin, both physically and emotionally shattered, she faced a harsh reality marked by rubble and lingering ghosts. It was in this bleak environment that Christa developed a hardened resilience. The emotional coldness and detachment she later became known for as Nico were likely forged in these years of scarce affection and constant turmoil, shaped by witnessing a nation's collapse and learning to survive in its aftermath. From these ruins, however, emerged a steel flower, an inner strength that would carry her through the many storms ahead. At just 16, Christa's striking features caught the attention of photographer Herbert Tobias while she was working at the renowned Cardaway department store, selling lingerie. Her beauty was unlike anything seen before, tall and statuesque, with impossibly high cheekbones and piercing blue eyes that seemed almost otherworldly. Tobias didn't simply offer her the opportunity to enter the world of fashion. He gave her a new identity, a new name, Nico, in memory of a lost lover. From that point on, Nico's presence was unstoppable. Her image swiftly traveled from Berlin to Paris, then London, and finally to New York. She became one of the very first true supermodels in history, gracing the covers of prestigious magazines such as Vogue and Elle. Nico became the muse for top fashion houses, her face appearing everywhere, symbolizing an era and a new standard of beauty. However, Nico was never satisfied with being merely a canvas for extravagant clothes. She yearned for something more profound, something that could express the depth beneath her enigmatic exterior. Nico's entry into the cinematic world came when the celebrated Italian filmmaker Federico Fellini cast her in a brief but unforgettable role in his 1960 masterpiece, La Dolce Vita. In the film, she appeared as a mysterious and captivating German model, exuding an aura of cool European glamour that left a lasting impression despite her limited screen time. This fleeting appearance marked a new chapter in her life, intertwining her image with the sophisticated allure of European cinema. During this period, Nico's personal life became marked by an intense and passionate romance with the famed French film star Alain Delon. Known for his brooding and detached persona, Delon mirrored much of Nico's own enigmatic character. Their whirlwind affair was fierce and consuming, culminating in the birth of their son, Christian Aaron, affectionately called Ari, in 1962. However, the sweetness of their love story was bitterly marred by heartbreak. Alain Delon, in a cruel and public denial, refused to acknowledge Ari as his son, a rejection that wounded Nico deeply. This painful denial forced her to make the agonizing decision to leave Ari in the care of Delon's mother, as she grappled with the burdens of single motherhood and her relentless artistic aspirations. This sorrowful episode added another layer to Nico's life, one filled with love, loss, and the haunting shadow of abandonment that would linger throughout her journey. During the height of her success, Nico's personal life was marked by profound heartbreak. She fell deeply in love with the French film star Alain Delon, an embodiment of cool masculine allure that seemed to reflect her own enigmatic persona. Their passionate but brief affair resulted in the birth of their son, Christian Päffgen, affectionately known as Ari, in 1962. Yet, the sweetness of this new chapter was bitterly undermined. Alain Delon publicly and privately denied any acknowledgement of his son, despite Ari being the spitting image of his father. This rejection was a devastating blow to Nico's heart. Struggling with the heavy burden of being an unacknowledged single mother while pursuing her intense artistic ambitions, she made the painful decision to leave Ari in the care of Delon's mother. This painful chapter not only underscored the cruelty she faced but also cast a long, haunting shadow over her life. Ari's forsaken existence became a tragic subplot, running parallel to Nico's own lifelong story of turmoil and sorrow. After her departure from the Velvet Underground, Nico did not seek to return to the world of fashion or chase straightforward fame. Instead, she carved a path that was even darker and more uncompromising, fully unveiling the true artist within her. She embarked on a solo career defined by haunting, avant-garde music, introducing the harmonium as her signature instrument, a pump organ that produced a droning, ethereal sound reminiscent of a church's solemn ambience. The image of Nico, her once blonde hair now transformed into shades of black or henna red, hunched over this instrument, became an iconic symbol in underground music circles. Her albums from this period, including The Marble Index, 1968, Desert Shore, 1970, and The End, 1974, were not designed for mass appeal but rather constituted stark artistic statements, raw and deeply personal audio diaries chronicling the fractured state of her soul. Her lyrics grew opaque, infused with surreal poetry speaking of ice, deserts, death, and emptiness. In this era, her voice evolved beyond detachment into a profound, mournful instrument, echoing as if from a crypt, steeped in sorrow and introspection. Alongside her creative transformation, Nico undertook a deliberate dismantling of her former image as a blonde goddess. She dressed in loose, flowing black garments, her body grew gaunt, and her face bore the visible toll of addiction. This was a radical act of defiance aimed at confronting those who loved her solely for her beauty. Through this metamorphosis, she demanded recognition of the authentic artist within. She wandered across Europe, residing in cities such as Paris, London, and the industrial grayness of Manchester, England, where her bleak and haunting music resonated with the burgeoning post-punk generation. Touring relentlessly, Nico played not extravagant theaters but small, dimly lit pubs and gritty clubs, cultivating a devoted, if modest, fan base. Yet during this period, the tragedy of her personal life deepened with the reappearance of her son, Ari. Now a teenager, he joined her nomadic existence, but was swiftly engulfed in her darkest struggles. In an almost unthinkable act, Nico introduced Ari to heroin, justifying it as a means for him to understand her world. This marked a devastating alliance of addiction that consumed them both, blurring the boundaries between maternal instinct and self-destruction. The tragedy etched its mark further as Ari's life spiraled into ongoing battles with addiction and mental illness, a sorrowful echo of the woman who both gave him life and led him into darkness. Nico's journey into the depths of addiction darkened over time, as her life became increasingly enmeshed in the destructive grip of heroin. The factory, with its intoxicating blend of creativity and chaos, was not just a haven for artistic expression but also a breeding ground for narcotics. It was there, amid the swirling haze of drugs and despair, that Nico's solitude deepened. Despite being surrounded by some of the era's most luminous talents, she remained isolated, a solitary figure lost in her own world. Her personal relationships reflected this turmoil. Brief, intense affairs with figures like Lou Reed, John Cale, Jim Morrison, and a young Iggy Pop seemed like desperate attempts to fill an internal void no one could reach. Yet, no matter how fleeting or passionate these connections were, they could not offer true closeness or solace. Her tumultuous relationship with the Velvet Underground was emblematic of the fractures in her life. After just one album and a single tour, disagreements and differences forced her departure from the band, leaving her once again on her own. As the years wore on, addiction swallowed more of her sense of self. Perhaps the most heartrending chapter was her turn to involve her son, Ari, in her heroin dependency. In an almost unthinkable act of despair, Nico introduced her teenage son to the drug, believing it would bridge their worlds. From that moment forward, they became intertwined in a shared descent, partners in the shadow of addiction. This tragic bond shattered any remaining hope, as Ari's life echoed the destruction that marked his mother's path, marred by addiction and mental illness. Nico's descent into addiction was not merely a personal failing but a reflection of a life fraught with loss, pain, and the harsh realities of fame. It was a darkness she never fully escaped, and one that ultimately defined much of her later years. In her final years, Nico relocated to the serene island of Ibiza, a place that would offer her a chance at rejuvenation. Here, distanced from the shadows of her past struggles, she embarked on the difficult journey of overcoming her long-standing addictions. The harsh grip of heroin began to loosen, and with newfound clarity, she embraced healthier habits, riding her bicycle daily, nourishing her body better, and nurturing a desire to reclaim her life. Amid this slow but steady recovery, Nico rediscovered her passion for music. Far from the wild chaos of her earlier days, she found solace in composing and planning a new album, exploring fresh musical directions that reflected both her trials and her resilience. It was a tender yet powerful renaissance, a glimmer of hope piercing through decades marked by darkness, hinting at the strength that still flickered within the legendary artist. Ibiza, July 1988. Amid the warm Mediterranean sun, the peaceful island lies bathed in the languid rhythm of summer. Along a quiet, winding road, a woman nearly 50 years old pushes her bicycle. Her hair gleams with an orange hue, her face a map etched by a life weathered through storms. She is on a simple errand, to buy a small amount of cannabis, a lingering habit after conquering harder drugs that haunted her for 20 years. This woman is a legend, an icon, the frozen goddess of the 1960s, known as Nico. Yet destiny requires no grand stage. In the stillness of this afternoon, a minor fall, as her head strikes the hot pavement, would abruptly end her story. This was no mere bicycle accident. It was the final quiet note in a tragic opera stretching nearly half a century. After her fall, a passing taxi driver found her and rushed her to a local clinic. However, the doctors, unaware of her identity, dismissed her as a confused tourist suffering from heat stroke. They failed to conduct a thorough examination. It was only later that evening, when her condition worsened, that a brain scan revealed the true cause, a massive cerebral hemorrhage resulting from the fall. Tragically, it was too late. Nico died that same night, quietly and anonymously, far removed from the spotlight that once illuminated her life. Her passing was mundane, yet it marked the end of an extraordinary existence filled with beauty, pain, and relentless pursuit of artistry. Nico left behind a profound and lasting legacy that extends far beyond her music. Her influence is deeply embedded in the world of goth rock, inspiring iconic bands such as The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, and Dead Can Dance, all of whom have acknowledged her as a pivotal influence. Critics have acclaimed her work, with some heralding the Marble Index as one of the greatest albums ever made. Beyond music, her unique and haunting style continues to resonate in fashion and art, serving as a source of inspiration decades after her passing. Yet, Nico's legacy is not simply one of artistic triumph. It is also a narrative of beautiful complexity. She was shaped and scarred by the forces around her, her troubled past, the men who entered her life, and her battles with addiction. Despite these hardships, she remained an uncompromising artist, deliberately choosing the path that often led to her self-destruction. Her story stands as a poignant cautionary tale about the high cost of fame, but simultaneously celebrates the transformative power of art untainted by commercialism. As a figure, Nico embodied the essence of the femme fatale, yet beneath that enigmatic exterior lay a tragic victim of her own beauty and the demons she could never fully escape. Her music, especially songs like Femme Fatale and I'll Be Your Mirror, metaphorically offered a reflection to others, a mirror held up to the faces of those around her. The deepest sorrow resides in the fact that when Nico looked into her own mirror, she failed to recognize the extraordinary, talented woman seen by the rest of the world. Instead, she perceived only emptiness, a barren, desolate landscape where she wandered alone until her final breath. Nico's life was a poignant reflection of the intertwined struggles between fame, addiction, and the pursuit of genuine artistry. Her haunting voice and enigmatic presence left an indelible mark on music and culture, embodying a beautiful tragedy that echoed through decades. Despite the pain and isolation she endured, Nico's legacy endures as a testament to the raw power of uncompromised expression and the complex human story behind the icon. If you found Nico's story captivating, please like, share, and subscribe for more intriguing tales that explore the depths of human experience.